Ladies, gentlemen, children of all ages, we welcome you to The Lost for another exciting episode. I'm Chad, he's Razor, and this is the fourth and final episode in our series retrospective on Sub-Zero. Both, in this case. We are going to be looking at Sub-Zero's various appearances in media. Following this, we shall move on to Kung Lao, because I know you guys are getting sick of hearing about the Iceman cometh.
Nobody gets sick of Sub-Zero. That's not a thing. That's ridiculous.
You don't think?
I mean, I wouldn't want to meet the person who does get sick of Sub-Zero. I don't feel like we'd get along, that person and I. But yeah, this is finally, we are on to the third episode of Kuai Liang specifically. This is media adaptations that he's been in.
Kuai Liang and Noob Saibot, really, because there were a lot of media adaptations that circulated from the time before MK3.
Did we not cover Bihan?
I don't think that we did. I'm pretty sure that we didn't.
Well, it's been several months. I'm sure people won't mind us going over it again. And plus, like, the thing you have to start with, the first media adaptation is Malibu.
This is true. By default, that's Bihan.
Yeah, it's very Bihan heavy. Although, since this was before he and Noob Saibot were the same person, there's quite a bit of Noob in there.
There's a little bit of Noob. I wouldn't say quite a bit.
There's a little bit of Noob. He featured prominently in the Baraka taking care of the blue baby story, didn't he?
That was literally the only issue in which he appeared. That was it.
I thought he was in that bit where it's Baraka, Kung Lao, Kitana, and Sub-Zero.
Nah, he wasn't in there at all. Noob literally showed up for one issue to take care of a baby, and that was his entire deal. That was it.
Dizam.
Yep.
So he really didn't get much more than Kuai Liang in that comic.
Well, I guess, like, that's how... Like, if you're just defining Sub-Zero as Noob Saibot, then yeah, sure. Because, I don't know, Kuai Liang showed up for literally a page at the very end of the final issue. One page.
Like, the thing about Malibu is that basically they put Bihan in MK2, and they don't show Kuai Liang until they're ready for the scar on the eye suspenders outfit for 3.
It was roughly around the time of the final issue where they're like, okay, we guess it's been established at this point that the first Sub-Zero died, and he got replaced by his younger brother. Assumedly, they didn't actually play through MK2 for quite some time.
Yeah, I mean, I say they put Bihan in MK2, but they didn't really adapt any of the games the way I'm making it sound. They had stuff on the island, and then they had stuff in Outworld, and that was kind of the loose adaptation of 1 and 2, because MK2 in the Malibu comics was a race up a mountain and also a wedding between Shao Kahn and Sonya.
Yes. Also a bunch of stuff happening around the way, by the by.
Yeah, there was a lot of, like, I can't call it slice of life because they were being attacked by ninjas and stuff, but, like,
That's a constant occurrence.
There's a bunch of, like, here's Liu Kang at home, and his home is an artist's studio apartment in San Francisco.
I am still willing to believe that. If MK4 wants to tell me that Liu Kang has a street life and he just rocks leather jackets, I don't see why an art studio in San Francisco is that unbelievable.
It's a bit of a jump for me to go from fisherman to artist, that's all. I mean, where did he learn to draw?
Fishermen have plenty of time to draw, waiting for things to snap. I can find this much more believable than I can Douche Lao in his existence, in his entirety existence. How fast will that asshole get thrown out of the fucking... anyway.
Honestly, I think all of that whole section of Malibu was just somebody really wanted to write Bo the Bodyguard more often. That's what I believe.
I think that we're both in agreement that if there was ever any one single character from like from a lot of the extraneous early media that made it into a game, Bo would be a good contender. Now we already have another Bo. I like it. Just some guy whose job it is to hang around Johnny Cage all day, who isn't mocap, and just deal with all of his shit.
I mean, honestly, that's kind of one of the things that MK could use more of is supporting characters for the mains. Like, the closest we have in canon is that Johnny has mocap as a stuntman who works for him. And that's all. That's it.
Well,
Like, we barely know anything about the Special Forces members other than Sony and Jax. Like, there was a guy named Baron, but Molina ate him.
well, we have our...
There was Sue Howe and a lady named Gemini who's never on screen.
We have plenty of B-listers, and we complain when the B-listers don't get enough time.
I'm just saying, like, the thing for me that makes Spider-Man, for example, work is Jameson and Aunt May and Betty Brant and Flash Thompson. You know, there's, like, when you're reading a Superman comic, half of it is him in the cape fighting somebody, and the other half is he's at the Daily Planet, and there's Perry and Jimmy Olsen and Cat Grant. You know, there's... Those side characters actually flesh out the world. They kind of matter.
They do, but in MK, the game's actual, they're too busy being killed off behind the scenes.
Yeah, like we didn't learn Scorpion's wife and son's names until MKX. It took 25 years.
You know, those Mugen guys call the Grandmaster Oniro. I don't know where the hell they got that name.
Oniro is from the animated series.
Is it really?
Yeah, Oniro is the Grandmaster's name in Defenders of the Realm.
That explains why I don't remember.
You gotta watch Defenders, man. I'm gonna make you do it.
I'm scared. Alright, Sub-Zero. So a quick rundown of Sub-Zero in Malibu. Shows up the tournament, is haunted by Scorpion, who he murdered in a duel. Remember, this is before mythologies. They were just from opposing clans set to test each other's strength.
Yeah, just like in The Journey Again.
Yeah. And surprise, surprise, the guy that can freeze shit won out over the guy that just kind of throws not spears in Malibu, but little spiked balls on the
he had a fucking mace.
Yeah. So we know how that went. Head and spinal cord ripped out. Shows up on the island with his good friend and identical clone Hydro. Scorpion makes short work of Hydro in very short order.
They had to have NPCs to die in the tournament, and this was how they handled it. They made up guys like Hydro.
This is the source of all Hydro, by the way. Hydro's had a weird life, and it's like...
Yeah.
Honestly, at this point, he's kind of almost worth a quick episode of his own. We could, like...
I'm kind of a fan of Hydro. I mean, not the Malibu version, but the idea of Hydro. The platonic ideal of Hydro.
Yeah, like, I like the concept. It's an alright one. The problem is we already have Rain.
Yeah, I mean, the part where I start giving a shit about Hydro is when he becomes a cyber ninja.
The concept of Hydro becomes a cyber ninja.
Yes.
Sort of.
Malibu's Hydro did not live that long.
No. Showed up,
also,
got his shit ripped,
his outfit changed every appearance he made. I specifically remember him going from base ninja V. At one point, he has like a Greek tunic.
Got to differentiate them somehow, I guess.
I feel like there was a third outfit too that was really ugly, but I can't remember exactly what it was like.
It's possible. There's some weird stuff going on. Like,
yeah,
I feel like I remember him like wearing some
idea that was not fully formed the first time they used him, and they kept going back thinking, "Okay, I want to try again."
I think he wore some weird reflective armor with like an odd mouthpiece at some point. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, this episode ain't about him. He dead. So, not a whole lot happens with him as a character. Like, he fights off Scorpion a couple of times, here and there. And it's the usual shit, you know? I'm gonna kill you for killing me, blah, 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 blah. But it's more worth mentioning that, like, Sub-Zero in the Malibu comics is portrayed as kind of a good guy. He won the fight fair and square, and he's tired of Scorpion's shit.
I mean, that was sort of the vibe back in the 90s, was... The adaptation material was only vaguely familiar with what it was adapting, and it just looked at, well, one of these guys wears blue, and the other has a flaming skull for a head.
Gee, I wonder who's evil.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. So he winds up teaming up with like Katana, Baraka, and Kung Lao for a little while. I forget exactly why. I think Katana was trying to like recruit people to help her take down Shao Kahn, but it just didn't
yeah,
work.
yeah, I think that's what it was about.
Something
Because
like
like
that.
again, there was not really a formal second tournament going on. It
No,
was just kind of a mess of concurrent events.
not as such. And like Sub Zero never actually gets to deal with Scorpion himself again.
No.
He fights him and like he shoos him off a couple of times, but like the one time where Scorpion does actually get wrecked in these comics is when Katana like dices him up into pieces.
Yeah, there was a in short order Scorpion stopped being Sub-Zero's problem and started being a popular character. Let's make him a an overall villain in the book. And like he started working for Shao Kahn, and Kahn gave him this gem that would let him create skeleton armies or something.
The Death Stone. Yeah.
Yeah.
It gave him power over legions of the dead. Sounds
Yeah.
familiar. Sounds very
And he ended
familiar.
up he fought so there were these two Shaolin monks named Sing and Sang, and they could do the fusion dance and become Siang. And because one of them died, and then they did the fusion dance, Scorpion could control them.
Yeah,
Because he was like half living, half dead, and stuck that way.
one of them died, the other one was dying, and the guy's like, if I don't fuse with my brother's corpse, I am going to die. So he fused, and they got stuck as being half dead and half a living, and it didn't work out too well for them because Scorpion would killing them in the end anyway.
Yeah.
But Sub Zero, we've gone over this a couple of times, but just worth the recap. At the very end of the comic series, Shao Kahn decides, on the eve of the tournament, I'm going to throw this amulet up to the top of a freezing mountain, and the winner, like the first to the top who actually gets it, is the winner.
Yeah, and that's basically their version of the MK2 tournament.
So many people just get caught up fighting each other and going absolutely nowhere. Like, Shao Kahn takes the trouble of splitting them up into two teams, like the Outworlders and the Earthrealmers plus Baraka for some fucking reason.
Malibu really wanted to make Baraka more of a thing.
They wanted to make him a sympathetic, like, kind of anti-hero along the lines of Spawn, which is why they had him running around protecting a baby, I guess. But anyway.
I guess.
But,
I think they realized what we've all known for, the past 20-some years, that Baraka is kind of boring as just a minion and that he needs more meat on the bone, and their answer to that was to try and play against type, like take this guy who looks like a scary monster and make him the opposite of what you'd expect.
But it doesn't go very well because Baraka realizes in short order he does not like and does not want to work with humans, and this is why Jax would have needed metal arms if the series continued, because Baraka sliced his armpits up. Pretty well. And at the conclusion of the whole thing, Sub-Zero basically, like it just basically, the narration basically says that Sub-Zero is the only person out of the entire two teams who realizes this is not a team exercise. It's everyone for themselves. Cooperation gets you nowhere. So he just kind of silently fucked off away from the rest of them, climbed the mountain up, and Goro was already up there waiting for someone to show up just so he could kick the shit out of them, I guess. And Sub-Zero becomes the only person in the series to take on Goro alone, fair and square, and win. Probably being at the top of a freezing mountain, like, might have helped.
Yeah, Goro is another character that Malibu pushed super hard.
They're the ones who named him the Prince of Pain.
Yeah, and often as, like, in a protagonist position.
I mean, say what you want about Zagat and the Bird and Abacus and the Giant Gun, but it was a fun read. It really was a fun read.
There was a lot of goofy 90s bullshit, and Goro had to fight and kill all of it.
You know, it's actually funny that, like, they never gave Scorpion or Sub-Zero their own mini. Kung Lao got...
Like, Kano and Raiden got a team-up book.
Kano and Raiden got one. Katana and Melina got a one-shot. Baraka got a one-shot. Kung Lao got a one-shot. There was a Special Forces miniseries, which was fucking terrible. But yeah, nothing for the ninjas, Liu Kang, or Johnny Cage. Surprisingly, very weird.
So you don't like all of the OC Donut Steel Special Forces members like Silence with a Y?
I'm amazed you remember their names. I barely remember Raiden's assistants Wind and Rain. That's Rayne.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
WYND. Because it's the 90s.
of course. So after Sub-Zero gives Goro the fight of his life and takes him down, Scorpion, pops up behind him. It's like, finally, here we are. It's finally time for me to murder you. And Sub-Zero's like, fuck you. I'm tired of dealing with your shit. I've just, fought Goro. I'm exhausted. You kill me now, it's the ultimate act of cowardice. And Scorpion goes, and we've quoted this before, perhaps you are correct, mortal. Perhaps you are correct. We shall debate the issue in the afterlife. And he roasts him. And some of the last pictures in the comic are of Sub-Zero burning down to his skeleton, but still grabbing the medallion and winning. And then Shao Kahn keeps the skull as a trophy and admires him for his courage. And that's the story of Sub-Zero in Malibu.
Well, that's the story of Bihan and Malibu. Like we said, there was a
Yeah.
single shot of Kuai Liang in his MK3 outfit after that.
Yeah, at the very, very, very end of that particular issue, you flash forward back on Earth sometime later, and there are a bunch of ninjas that really look like hand ninjas trying to infiltrate a company for some reason, and they look kind of high tech. So obviously the writers kind of knew about what was coming in MK3. And then Sub-Zero, Kuai Liang specifically shows up, and he's like, I now denounce this clan as unworthy of the continued services of Sub-Zero. And that was it. That was the very last image in Malibu.
Yeah. So that's I mean, at least that's something for the history books, that the last panel of any Malibu Mortal Kombat series was Kuai Liang.
It was nice. We also have the Jeff Roven novel, which...
We do have that, which does not have Kuai Liang in it, but does have Bihan.
So a quick recap. Scorpion, whose name was Yong Park, was once a member of the Lin Kuei, who left, and settled down and had a wife and a child, and became a fisherman. And after a couple of years, the Lin Kuei found him, because that's what they do. And Sub-Zero specifically dragged him out before his wife and kids in the middle of the village and disemboweled him with a sword. Painfully and slowly in front of his wife and kid. And then he threw him into a lake, into a stream, and he drowned. That's how he died.
Yeah. And because Jeff Roven is a huge fan of authentic Chinese mythology, he knew that the Chinese have a lot of deities of specific rivers. And so the god of that river, who was offended by someone dying in his river...
The demigod Yu. Why
Yeah.
Yu?
He allowed Scorpion to possess his own son to seek revenge.
Yeah, he specifically wanted Sub-Zero's head. Sub-Zero himself, meanwhile, his time in the series, his time in the book, apart from that bit of background for Scorpion, is spent in service for Shang Tsung, actually. He hires him, Shang Tsung hires Sub-Zero via a carrier pigeon. The carrier pigeon had a name, and I'm forgetting it right now. Hamachi. It was Hamachi, the pigeon. Shang Tsung sends Hamachi the pigeon to Sub-Zero's lair, which is in the middle of a sheer rock cliff. Just a cave in the middle of a cliff, which is where he spends his time hanging out. And so yeah, Sub-Zero gets a message from Shang Tsung. Please help me come and deal with these special forces fucks that are trying to infiltrate my island. You'll be paid well, as you always are. So Sub-Zero, while remembering fondly about how he murdered a man in front of his wife and child. Yeah, like seriously, and like he's proud as he remembers this too. I recall that also. It's like if I could do it, I'd do it all over again, bastard. You don't leave the
Yeah.
fucking clan.
I suppose the novel then is notable for being one of the only adaptations to get Bihan right as a total bastard
Oh
and
yeah,
not a good guy.
it had him right for years before Mythologies ever came out. So Sub-Zero accepts the mission and gets his shit and takes off for Shang's Island. And he very nearly kills Liu Kang until Liu Kang like gets in some sort of like magical explosion accident, which gives his which gives his
Raiden
hands
was fighting up the mountain, and a stray bolt of Raiden's lightning struck near Liu's feet and somehow transferred the power to create fireballs to Liu Kang.
which is what actually saves his life from Sub-Zero, as I'm recalling it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, 'cause-
that's pretty much the story, and eventually Scorpion shows up and scares the living piss out of him.
Yeah, because
He
we have
doesn't get to
mentioned
deal with
before,
them.
like we did a whole review of the book, but in a nutshell, the book is a prequel to MK1, sort of, where like the plot is about Shang trying to get his hands on this medallion that used to belong to the Great Kung Lao. And the special forces and Liu Kang are trying to stop him, and Liu is sort of like he's like working for them almost as a secret agent, the way Bruce Lee was a secret agent for the government in Enter the Dragon, despite being a Shaolin monk.
It's a nice little shout out. Has to be intentional. So that's roughly it for Scorpion and Sub-Zero in the novel. Like, Scorpion shows up and like threatens him, and Sub-Zero decides, well, this is enough for me. I'm not going to deal with this. So like during the big confrontation and whatnot, at some point Scorpion's like, where'd Sub-Zero go? Oh, he fucked off right away. Like the implication being he's actually a complete fucking coward. So he swears that he'll have his revenge on Sub-Zero one day, but you know, there never was a second MK novel from Jeff Rovin, much as I would have wished for one.
Yeah.
So that's our first two bits of extraneous material.
I guess from there we'd go to The Journey Begins,
By all
which
means.
we have reviewed in full before, but in a nutshell, Sub-Zero's part is the movie is sort of halfway between the lore of the games and the lore of the film. And it mostly revolves around the boat ride to Shang's Island, and then Raiden takes them around the island a little bit, telling them character origins until the tournament starts. And so Sub-Zero sort of occupies the same role in the cartoon that he does in the movie, where they fight him on the boat, and then their fight is interrupted by the fact that they're not allowed to fight.
Oh man, what a headache that movie gives me.
The one main difference between the cartoon and the movie is that Scorpion and Sub-Zero are not on the same side in The Journey Begins the way they are in the film. There is no slaves under my power bit.
Some sacrifices have to be made.
So, as Raiden is taking them around the island telling origin stories, one of the stories he tells is the backstory of Scorpion and Sub-Zero. Really the backstory of Scorpion, which Sub-Zero has a part in. And the funny thing about the animated movie is that whenever it goes to one of these flashback fight scenes, they're animated in super primitive 3D.
It hurts my mind to picture them.
The characters literally look kind of like the G.I. Joe figures. And they're trapped in these poses where one hand is permanently a fist and the other hand is permanently open palm for karate chops.
Like we're talking like pre PS1 3D here.
And The one positive thing I will say about this fight scene is that Scorpion's spear is at least a sharp thing on the end of a rope. It's not a mace. It's not a snake.
Oh, goodness.
But yeah, once again, like the fight scene in a nutshell is these two enemy clans every once in a while send their best warriors to fight it out and see who's better. And surprise, surprise, the one with superpowers absolutely crushes the one without.
You don't say.
Just freezes him, shatters him. What a surprise.
So he actually didn't do the spine rip in this one, eh?
No, it's he freezes him, and then I think it cuts away during the shatter and just plays a sound effect.
Oh, we've come so very far. Let it not be said that for all of today's faults, everything is inferior. As much as as much as we have problems these days, at least we can show a guy getting his fucking head chopped off without hesitation.
I guess. The one most famous thing about Sub-Zero in The Journey Begins is that they keep pronouncing it Lin Q instead of Lin Kuei.
Ouch. I completely forgot about that bit. Ugh.
Yeah. Chinese is hard.
I guess this brings us to the movie.
It does.
Now is when things get truly interesting. I mean, if it was anybody else except for Scorpion and Sub-Zero, I would probably say yes. And
Well, the thing is that Sub-Zero has such a tiny part in the movie, but he still manages to be memorable.
yeah,
Because, I mean, once again, he is one of the few characters in the whole thing who actually has powers.
the introduction with him and Scorpion was very memorable. It was a great way to display their powers.
Yeah, like there are these unexplained moments where somebody will do a special move, like Johnny will do the shadow kick, or Lou will do the bike kick, or Lou will do sort of an orange electric punch that's kind of like a fireball, but they never like explain how they're doing that because the movie treats the Earthrealm characters as though they are normal humans. And like all the Outworlders are supernatural, and it's like, how can we beat them? They have powers and we don't. And then it'll just put a special move on the screen and go, "You saw nothing. Forget about it."
Well, Johnny initially didn't have that much of an explanation for his powers. Up until MK9 went, well, this and that about his bloodline and god killings and whatnot.
Well, yeah, no, like the original explanation for Johnny was he trained with the greatest masters in the world. And, that's enough for me to figure, okay, Chi.
Yeah.
Look, I see him shooting glowing shit out of his hands. That's Chi, whatever. But the movie, like, doesn't acknowledge the existence of the supernatural outside of Outworld. Like, it doesn't even tell you where Sub-Zero is from. You just, because he's working for Shang Tsung, you're left to assume maybe he's an Outworld guy if you don't know the story.
And Shang Tsung does imply that there is a story. Deadliest of enemies, yet slaves under my power.
Yeah, that's really all the origin you get for either him or Scorpion.
I'm kind of grateful that they gave us at least that one line. It's like, as a fan, yes, we'd love to show you this, but we just don't have the time here.
It's like, look, we know that it's not canon that these two would fight together, but
we need henchmen. And we
like
can't tell two stories.
A lot of things would just do, okay, well, this is our movie, and it's what, they just ignore the fact that it's different from the source material. They wouldn't offer an excuse.
And I appreciate that they went the extra mile here.
Yeah, it is like, that's sort of always been the charm of the 95 MK movie, is that it was at least trying to acknowledge the roots, like respecting the source, if not following it 100%.
Unlike some things I could mention, Cole Turner.
Well, Well, I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about when the Cole Turner story comes out.
Yeah. So Sub-Zero is played by, if I'm remembering the guy's name right, it's Jean-François Petit.
Yes, he is. He's like a physical therapist for WWE, or was at one point.
Huh. Neat. Did not know that.
Yeah.
He is also the only person, I think, who did not return, out of the Ninja Cast at least, didn't come back for Annihilation.
Yeah, no, they didn't all play the same ninjas. Actually,
No,
Chris Casamassa didn't come back either.
Didn't
Scorpion was not him.
I think the guy that played Reptile played someone else. Was he
Yeah,
Scorpion?
the.
Or was he Sub-Zero?
Oh, let me think. What is his name? J.J. Perry. Which one was he? I think
That was Reptile.
Yeah, he was Reptile, and he played Scorpion in Annihilation.
So both Casamassa and Petit did not come back.
Yeah.
But Casamassa came back for Conquest.
He did.
This was
because they gave
Petit's...
him a speaking role.
Yeah. This was Petit's one and only appearance as Sub-Zero anywhere.
Indeed it was.
And I remember...
I mean, he did a good job of it. He followed Robin Shue right up that wall.
He did. A lot of people point to, like, the Liu and Sub-Zero fight being, like, the weakest, like, fight in the entire movie. I don't know. It's at least very entertaining, if not the most accurate. Like, we know now that, like, they went back and they shot Liu versus Reptile because people said that there weren't enough fights and the fights weren't good enough.
Yeah, they shot Liu and Reptile, and they shot the Hell portion of Johnny versus Scorpion in reshoots. So, in the pre-reshoots version of the movie, Liu and Sub-Zero was probably the second most impressive fight in the whole film after Liu and Shang.
If that is the case, thank God for reshoots. I'm not saying that fight sucks. It's entertaining, but it starts
brief.
It starts and then it's over. It's very brief.
Yeah, it did teach an entire generation of children which element is the one that brings life.
I really do love how, like, Kitana and Raiden are borderline helping Liu to cheat in that fight. But you know what? Fuck it, because Shang's doing it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, they're really going out of their way there, though. Like, they're standing in the arena, and they keep, like, looking at Liu and giving him...
Remember, use your powers, and say, "Wata" when you kick. "Wata" when you punch. Wata. Nodding towards the buckets.
The key to beating your next opponent is to go forward, and then forward again, and then a high kick.
But that was also the first time that Sub-Zero ever had, like, kind of a polar blast move. That thing actually showed up in mythologies.
Yeah.
After this was used. Like,
it's...
The one definitely falls from the other.
Weird that... Because the first time we see him use his powers, he just grabs the gun, and it freezes to his touch. And the second time is Shang is putting on this demonstration the night before the tournament of what everybody can expect to be fighting against.
Yeah, this is good. It's
this one hooded guy cracking every bone in his body, doing his katas. And then Sub-Zero just freeze and shatter. Just one move, you're done.
I liked as the guy's getting the kata ready, he's like, "Come on. Anytime you're ready. Got all day. Bring it." I can't blame the guy for his kata. He knew he was gonna die.
Yeah, he was... I mean... When you're the shirtless hooded guy who works for Shang, and there's 20 more of you, you have to know that you're the red shirt.
Yeah. That's about that.
Like, you can't even expect a promotion at that job because you're wearing a mask. Shang doesn't know which one did the thing.
Probably pick numbers out of a hat. You, 25. Treasure these moments. They're about to be your last.
Yeah, but like Sub-Zero versus Liu Kang, he doesn't even try the regular freeze. He just decides, okay, I'm going to fill the room with this bubble. Which, to be fair, if the water wasn't there, I guess is a pretty good strategy because 360 degrees of protection, you're not coming at him.
Move's just a little bit overpowered. Long startup, though, which is its weakness.
Yeah. It's, there needs some nerfs.
And we know how that ends with the water right to the chest in icicle form, conveniently. And yeah, and one of the most memorable parts of that fight definitely is the utter "what the actual fuck" look in his face as he freezes from the center upwards.
How did this happen to me?
You utter bastard! You and that motherfucking god, you. That's what that look in the eye was. It was a look of betrayal. Realization. You fucking cheated. I can do this myself. You needed a goddamn bucket. You bastard. So, Annihilation, I guess?
Well, between the movie and Annihilation, there was Defenders of the Realm, in which Kuai Liang is one of the main characters. Several episodes focusing on him and his backstory with the Cyber Ninjas. And in this show, Sub-Zero was, oddly, voice acted by Luke Perry from Beverly Hills 90210.
Rest in peace, Luke.
I'm not sure where they got the idea for that, but I guess it was celebrity stunt casting, because they also did a lot of that for Captain Planet. And I think USA and TNT might have been connected production company-wise. I'm not exactly sure about that. But there were definitely some... like, the quality of the voice acting on the show is honestly surprising for the quality of the rest of the show. Because you had Ron Perlman as Stryker.
That is still so fucking weird.
You had Clancy Brown as Raiden. And this was, like, before either one of them was really big. Like, Ron Perlman hadn't been Hellboy or Slade and Teen Titans yet. Wouldn't be for another, like, decade. Clancy Brown, I think he might have been playing Lex and Superman at the same time, but this would have been very early on at it, so he was still, like, just the Highlander guy. And I guess Pet Sematary.
Oh, yeah. So, what exactly the hell did he do? I know that there was a Smoke episode. He was a bit of a main fixture of the show. Like, he wasn't in every episode, I don't think. He was on enough of them.
Well, he was in every episode, but he didn't have a big role in every episode because it was a big team. It was, Lou, Kitana, Nightwolf, Raiden, Sonya, Jax, Stryker, and him. And then every other episode would have some other guest character. Like, there was a Cabal episode, and there was a Rain episode, and they never did Jade, but they did a knockoff of Jade named Ruby.
That is so goddamn weird.
I never understood. Like, Threshold had a real problem with adapting Jade, but we'll get to that one day.
Please, by all means. This is only now striking me how odd that is that they left Jade out.
Yeah.
Even Shiva was in there, wasn't she?
Shiva was in several episodes.
That is fucking odd.
Motaro was in a couple of... Like, they had pretty much the entire Ultimate MK3 cast eventually.
Noob Saibot?
They never did Noob. They never did Melina. They never did Baraka, but they kind of hinted that he had died off screen before the series started. Like, that's a weird thing. Like the part of the thing about the series is that it claimed to be a sequel to the first movie. So, like, whenever there was a flashback, it would resemble the movie. Like, you'd see Liu fighting Bi-Han at the tournament. And, like, they did the whole deal with the bucket of water, except it didn't turn into a giant icicle, stab him in the stomach, and then freeze him. It just froze him because ratings.
Yeah.
Like, and they had Sonya versus Kano's fight from the movie reenacted, but the leg grab neck snap was different.
And he was actually in the show. He survived.
Yeah, like, they said that Shao Kahn healed him or brought him back from the dead or something.
That's consistent with game logic. Sure, why not?
But yeah, so, like, the pilot episode is Sub-Zero hasn't joined the team yet. And they're fighting the Cyber Ninjas in some, like, Mad Maxy looking abandoned, like, ship graveyard on Earthrealm. Like, that's, like, another weird unspoken thing about the whole cartoon is you never really see civilization. It's like the entire series is taking place during MK3, and MK3 is taking months. It's going on forever. So like, they're fighting Sector and Cyrax, and Sub-Zero just kind of shows up to rescue them and freeze all the robots because they have those generic gray robots. And this was really, this series invented the idea of the generic gray Lin Kuei, because in MK3 proper,
I do remember some stills from this, yeah.
Yeah, there are no other Lin Kuei besides Sector Cyrax and Smoke. Those were prototypes, and before any more could be made, the invasion started, and all the Lin Kuei souls had been stolen. So there were just the 3. But in the show, they needed minions to break. Do their fatalities on something. Hey, robots. Like the Foot Clan in the Turtles cartoon.
Exactly.
So Sub-Zero shows up to kill all the robots and make Sector and Cyrax retreat. And as soon as he shows up, Sonya starts screaming about how they can't trust him because he's a traitor to his own clan. The clan that they were just fighting against.
Oh my god. I mean, she was just bitch putting on that show from the clips I've seen.
She was an absolute cunt on that show. And also kind of dumb. There's at least one episode, maybe 2 or 3, that are specifically about her making some horrible mistake in the first act that she then has to make up for by the end of the episode.
Yay, combat time.
She was the character who is supposed to be flawed but learns their lesson, but because it's a cartoon, they never learn their lesson. It always reverts to status quo.
Oh, glorious.
She was the Homer Simpson, basically. But yeah, so they take Sub-Zero back to the base. And then the base is attacked by Tarkatans, or as the show calls them, the Nomad, because they hadn't... The name Tarkatan actually comes from Deception. It didn't exist before then.
Yeah, that was a pretty big thing. I remember that happening. It's like,
yeah.
Fucking A, they have a name now.
Like, some of the things you learn in the first episode is that Sonya has, quote-unquote, lost 2 partners, and that's the only reference you ever get to Johnny Cage. He apparently died before the series started.
Jesus fuck.
You learn that Baraka died somewhere off-screen because they introduced this new Tarkatan leader named Karbrak, and they say he is the new leader, implying that the previous leader... They never actually say Baraka's name, they just say the previous leader died.
Karbrak?
Yeah. And then when they do the Reptile episode, they name him Komodai, because Reptile died in the movie, remember?
Oh man, this is where a lot of bad Mugen characters are coming from. Now I'm understanding this. I'm like, who the shit are Ruby and Emerald and Komodai? And oh my god.
It's starting to make sense now, isn't it?
It is. I'm like, where did they pull these names from? And now I'm like, huh. A lot of those Mugen characters are made by Russian people. And the only place MK ever got a release in DVD form, the cartoon, was Russia. You know what? Like, and you know what?
I noticed a weirdly significant number of Mugen creators also are Hispanic. like from somewhere like Mexico or maybe South America. I'm not it's not always the same country, but they are often Spanish speaking.
Well, like South
as their
America
primary language.
South America fucking loves its fighting games. Like there's I think the biggest King of Fighters fan base in the world is in like Brazil. And now like, you know what, no, now we've got like Cold War Scarlet, and there's like the Black Dragon base in Russia. I think there's like way, way more of a Russian fan base for MK than we've ever really been aware of until recently. So props, Russia.
It is curious. Especially in this age of, like, America hating communism is coming back.
Nah, fuck that. If they like MK, then they're all my tovarish. I don't know what the plural of tovarish is.
I mean, they could hack the presidential election to put someone in who likes MK.
I suppose they could, but
they might appreciate that.
So far, they've left Canada alone, and for that, I'm very grateful. That I know of.
That you know of.
Oh, no one cares about us.
Canada's probably already socialist enough for them to approve. They don't need to mess with it.
This is the truth. Enjoying my free healthcare. Alcoholism that'll bite me in the ass later on in life. I'm already covered.
It's fine. It's fine. That's what a liver's for. Nobody wants to live to be 90. So like the rest of the pilot is like Sonya once again bitches. They followed him here. He led them here. I told you not to trust him. And then he helps them beat the Tarkatans, and they're like, oh, I guess we can trust you after all. And then he joins the team, and that was the pilot episode. And then later there was a Smoke episode that went into the whole backstory, and that's one of my favorite episodes of the show because so much of it just coincidentally happens to match up with how I imagined MK3's version going. Like, because one of the things that, like, MK9, for example, did not convey is that, like, Sub-Zero and Smoke were at the Lin Kuei base when the Cyber Initiative started. Like,
this is how they had to run away from them. They were on the lam. The chase has to start somewhere.
Like, just happening to be on a mission in Outworld, and surprise, robots show up. And it's stupid.
It's one of many, many contrivances made to abridge the whole thing into like 3 hours of story, if even that, and I've never been happy with it.
Yeah.
I've said this before, like, I understand a lot of how MK9 had to make, some sacrifices to squeeze everything in, and for all that it's worth, I think they do an okay job with 1. For the better parts of 2, yeah. But
I personally believe that if you don't have enough space to do all the things, then don't try to do all the things at once. Like, scale back a little, make an adaptation of just 1 and 2, and then do 3 as a separate game.
Yeah, try telling him that.
Mm.
I've actually debated playing a fun game on my Twitter where I just repost MK3 bios, but with the parts that they didn't do in 9 censored out with bars. I'm sure that there's just some characters that'll have like a sentence worth of stuff. Anyway,
yeah, that would be an interesting experiment. There would be some shit missing for sure.
All right, so Sub-Zero.
The entire demo mode, for example.
Oh yeah.
The game. So one of the things about the Smoke episode of the cartoon is that obviously Sector Cyrax and Smoke had never been seen unmasked when this came out.
Yeah, here it comes.
Yeah,
this is fun.
So Sector is the one who's a black guy with dreadlocks. Cyrax is just kind of a short-haired white guy. And Smoke is also just kind of a short-haired white guy. Like, I think Cyrax's hair was brown and Smoke's is black.
Smoke's is black. I remember that. He looks kind of like a little bit like Luke Perry, actually.
They all kind of look the same as Rain, because Rain's unmasked in his episode too, and he has like a black-haired bowl cut. I mean, there wasn't a lot of difference between faces and hairs on the show in general, because it was kind of going for a sort of the later Bruce Timm art style, not Batman the Animated Series, but the new Batman Adventures and Superman. That
Blah.
simplified art style.
Yeah, no one was ever really much of a fan of that, except for Scarecrow.
Yeah, the new Scarecrow design was pretty rad. With the hat and the noose.
The glowing eyes. Kind of the, farmer gone completely wrong sort of look.
Yeah.
But, did you want to save most of the Smoke episode for the Smoke ep, or what?
I guess we should, because I think, like, one of the things about reviewing Defenders of the Realm is I want so much to make you watch the show anyway.
It's not
And
that I
then to
don't
actually
want
do
to.
a commentary.
It's not that I don't want to. I'm just kind of scared. That's all.
But just, like, in a nutshell, it really, like, devotes time to showing that the two of them are friends and that they give a shit about each other. And that, like, you actually see, like, Smoke starts the episode as a cyber ninja who is programmed and who is hunting Sub-Zero. And over the course of the fight, Sub-Zero talks him into recovering his memories, and you actually see him come out of the programming by sheer force of will, which is how the games described it happening.
This sounds like an episode I would love. It really does. I'm sad.
I mean,
now.
it's kind of cheesy the way they do it. Like, it's like there's a scene where it's just like a couple seconds long flashback of the two of them standing outside the Lin Kuei temple, and Sub-Zero goes, "No matter what, I will never fight against you, my brother." And then they shake hands. And then in the present, he's like, "Remember our vow that we'd never fight each other." You know, it's a children's cartoon version of things, but
Children's cartoon cheese is fun cheese.
yeah, I liked it.
No one's looking for gravitas in that stuff. I mean,
It's still more on point with the source material than 9 is.
Okay, down boy. But I'm with you on that. Remember, we have to focus.
Yeah, the only other really memorable thing about Sub-Zero in the series is that there is this one episode with Shang Tsung where he's got this orb that can control the 4 elements. And he uses it to, like, open up a fissure in the earth and trap all the team in, like, this ledge overlooking lava, and he's like, "Fight me, Raiden, or I'll crush them." And so Raiden actually has to get involved for once and fight. And during that episode, we learned that because Sub-Zero is the ice guy, he has a really low tolerance for heat.
Isn't that always how it works? Oh
because that is how they do it in cartoons.
Was there a guy called Flame on the show who is this opposite?
No.
Okay.
No, Flame is somebody's OC Donut Steel. That's pure Mugen.
Thank God. I was not looking forward to that episode if that was the case. Woo!
Another weird thing about the cartoon is there's an episode where Sub-Zero and Kitana are talking about how they, like, the other members of the team can't relate to the same experience that as they can relate to because they're the ones who are from Outworld, which is fucked up because the Smoke episode shows he's not from Outworld.
Why is it so hard to write this series?
Threshold really could not get a handle on the whole people with superpowers existing on the planet Earth thing.
God.
Which is funny, especially in the cartoon, because everybody has their special moves in the cartoon. Like, Lou throws fireballs. Jax does the earthquake every fucking episode.
Still kind of shaking my head at that Baraka thing.
Yeah, it was weird, man.
It was some sort of copyright issue?
I don't know.
Like, there's a movie called Baraka, there's endless restaurant chains called Baraka.
I feel like they were trying to allude to an MK2 having happened, and they just haven't shown it, and maybe they'll flash back to it one day, but, I mean, the show only got 1 season, so...
I guess they were figuring that he was dead since he didn't initially show up till Trilogy.
Yeah, I don't know, because like Kung Lao's not in the show either, but that's another threshold thing where they never put Kung Lao in things because they didn't want to get regular Kung Lao and Great Kung Lao confused.
Oh man, remember people cared about Great Kung Lao? Remember that was like an important part of the lore? Something that like you could confuse with the current dude. Anyway.
Right,
So
so
Annihilation?
pretty much covers Sub-Zero in Defenders of the Realm.
And now it's Annihilation time, baby.
Relation time.
Sliding in, plainly not holding on to anything whatsoever.
He's
Like
upside down.
Upside down.
Yeah.
Like I used to watch that and rewind it, and I was like, is he holding onto like a piece of wire with his feet, or like what's going on?
Is it like foot ziplining? I wondered that too. It's just it never makes sense. It never gets any better.
And that's the beginning of the scene. The one scene he's in. Oh, good gracious. It's beautiful. Starts with him freezing his friend and ally Smoke, kicking him off of a fucking ledge to his death.
Well, I mean, they call him Smoke, and he does teleport out of the smoke, but he shoots a missile, and Sector's not in the movie, so...
I think that they just chose Smoke because they wanted a really cool way to have him sneak up on Liu Kang. And I guess they'd already done the whole brazen walking in thing with Cyrax. Death is the only way out. So, as we know, he shows up and he's briefly like, well, I'm here to help you. You killed my brother, but I don't care about that. I have a weird scar on my face that looks suspiciously like makeup. It's accurate
honestly,
to the
game.
The
makeup for the scar was not bad. Like, it kind of got worse around his eyelids. and we're comparing, like, at this point, it's... The only comparison is the actual MK3 game where it was a red triangle painted on John Turk's face.
I suppose the outfit itself was not actually that bad.
It was probably the least bad of all of the UMK3 Ninja outfits in the movie, because the squares were not turned into like weird hexagons or something.
I'm actually on yourprops.com looking at it right now. It's in...
Because like every ninja in Annihilation has a different shape for their squares. Like Ermac had fucking hexagons.
His is like tire tracks. It really is. Just like little bent rectangles pointing downward. I've told you that low-key I'm actually kind of a fan of all the Annihilation Ninja designs.
I think Scorpion was the only one who had squares.
I approve of the effort to differentiate them via shape of ninja outfit things, pads, whatever you want to call them.
I think it's just for Ermac and Rain, it really didn't work. I think there's probably another way they could have gone there. Especially considering at the end of the movie when Noob Saibot shadow clones his way out of Ermac, he's wearing like robes instead of the UMK3 outfit.
Okay, like if you try to Google MK Annihilation Noob Saibot, it looks like the guy's wearing trash bags. You barely see him for more than a couple of seconds per each shot, and like when you pause it, he does look absolutely terrible. He's not wearing black makeup around his face whatsoever. It's skin tone. That's all it is.
He looks like when you take a t-shirt and wrap it around your face to make a ninja mask.
I'm not convinced that's not what they did. Yeah. He looks like some... It's like, that entire scene was, we have literally enough CG budget for the dragon scene, and for like 3 seconds of something else. Alright, let's just have him pour a bunch of liquid out of his own chest.
Fucking Ermac Saibot.
Oh my god.
What the fuck?
Ugh.
Annihilation came out after Trilogy, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
Because they were gonna set up MK4. Quan Chi was supposed to be in it. Shinnok is in it, at least by name, if not character design. But
well, you know what?
so like Noob Saibot had a story by then.
They were aware that he could make clones of himself, so they kind of gave that to Ermac and had him come out of Ermac, I guess.
That fucking movie, man.
Okay, well, what else needs to be said about that?
Let's go back. Let's go back and talk about how Sub-Zero shows up just to fight Scorpion a little bit, and then fucks off forever.
I've been sent to help you. Katana is instantly kidnapped. You're on your own.
He specifically says, you can't do this by yourself, and then disappears.
Kuai Liang is a bastard.
What a dick!
Oh, God. The special effects quality of that fucking ice bridge he builds. Oh my God. Like, that was pure paper mache. Paper mache. It is not convincing as ice whatsoever.
The scene where Scorpion kicks the broken chunk of it down into the hole is like the worst effect in the whole movie. And that's even considering like the vaguely claymation-y Shao Kahn Hydra animality.
Oh, it's so bad. It's painful.
Yeah, I just like Sub-Zero doesn't even say goodbye before he disappears. He just pulls a Batman on him.
Is it any wonder they were paired off against each other in Versus DC?
Oh, man.
Can't make it through this shit without drinking. Can't do it. Shouldn't do it.
You definitely shouldn't. I don't recommend it. So that's really pretty much it for all things Sub-Zero and Noob Saibot in that movie.
Well, he does an ice clone. That's kind of a cool little moment. I appreciate that.
He even backflips just like in the game.
Like, you say whatever the hell you want about that movie. It's not a great movie, but it tries in so many weird ways to be faithful and consistent to the games, even at the same time as it goes out of its way to shit on them just a little bit.
I mean,
it's so strange.
I have to say that even with like the weirdly like the obvious wire work where they're doing like kicking in midair and they're just hanging and you can tell it's not obeying gravity at all, that's still probably the best choreographed fight in the movie. Him and Scorpion.
Truth. It looks, I don't want to say good, but the fight itself is interesting. Give it that.
There's some dynamic stuff going on with the being knocked up and down the two levels of the bridge. And the, flipping and the music isn't bad.
Hey, again, say anything you want about the movie, but the soundtrack, beautiful. Got me into a lot of artists.
They used most of the good parts of the soundtrack in that whole sequence, from the time Smoke shows up to Scorpion yelling suckers and running away with Katana.
I still need to set that as my ringtone. So what's after Annihilation now?
Well, there's Conquest. The Sub-Zero in that show isn't technically Bihan or Kuai Liang.
It's a Sub-Zero, though.
Yeah, it is. And one of the things about Conquest is that it was at least devoted to retelling accurately the way Lin Kuei increased their membership. Because there are really two Sub-Zero episodes. There's one where it's like the second or third episode of the series. Shao Kahn hires the Lin Kuei to take out Great Kung Lao, and they send Sub-Zero, who's like still a rookie at this point, so he's not great at making the ice yet, and he kind of like, whenever he throws the ice, it kind of like wins him or injures him, and it takes him a while before he can do it again, so that he doesn't just ruin them in the first episode he's in,
Well,
It makes it a little harder for them to not die right away.
I appreciate that because as history has shown, the ice, if used improperly, is an instant win button.
I do. I rather like there's a bit of training montagery of the Lin Kuei making him train up his powers. There's a bit where they're forcing him to stick his hands in water and like freeze the water, and it
I
kind of hurts
remember
him
that.
because
I
it's
remember
like
that.
frostbite. And then there's a bit where he has to, where like they bring him in and he's in like a block of ice and he has to break his way out of the block of ice by like flexing his pecs really hard.
You know what?
This is sort of their demonstration that this is our finest warrior and he's ready to be sent out on the mission.
It is worth actually repeating, though, that, like, Conquest in particular is responsible for a lot of how we view the Lin Kuei today.
Yeah,
and how the games do, too, specifically. The logo for the Lin Kuei, the triangle
that's
with
true.
the
Like
circles.
the video games did not use a logo for the Lin Kuei clan until 9, and 9 uses the one from Conquest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's another thing I liked in the episode is that the logo, he actually has it branded on his forearm. And the Grandmasters use like a magic branding iron. So when they want him to return to base, they heat it up and he feels the brand on his arm burn, and that's when he knows he's being summoned.
Kinda weird, but, you know, not Dragon Tattoo weird.
I mean, it was 500 years ago. They didn't have cell phones. I kind of like that because I always figured that if I ever get a tattoo, I want the Lin Kuei logo on my forearm.
That's pretty sweet. I like it.
Yeah. I haven't gotten one yet, mostly because of the cost. Like, a tattoo's a couple $100.
It can be pretty expensive. They're actually fairly cheap up here.
But I think I'll do it one day, and that'll be what I get. Lin Kuei logo. I've actually thought about getting like symbols that represent all the ninjas all the way down my forearm.
Damn, man, you're hardcore.
Yeah,
I mostly thought about like getting the dragon logo done, but that's some real
I thought about
shit.
like the spear in a circle, and then the logo, and then like that never-ending story belt buckle that Reptile has, and then like Ermac's like 2 E's back to back or whatever that is on his chest. And then, like, in 9, Rain had this kind of water drop shape on his shoulder pads. That's probably what I'd use for him. And, like, the Brotherhood logo for Noob Saibot.
When you love a game, when you love the series so much, you're willing to imprint a part of 9 on your body. That's impressive, man. Respect. I probably draw the line with the Lin Kuei logo myself, or the Shiraryu logo, but power to you. Anyway.
Yeah, maybe one day.
So
the episode ended with basically they kind of beat Sub-Zero up, and he's forced to retreat, and he goes back to Lin Kuei, and he's like, I can still kill them, give me another chance. And they're like, you weren't ready, your training isn't complete, but you'll have another one day. To basically tease, he'll come back in another episode. And then the second episode with him in it is it was called The Scorpion, or it was called The Serpent and the Ice, because fucking Threshold and their scorpion spear being a snake. Snakes, like, a scorpion is already a kind of animal. What the fuck?
Like, they had a weird mad-on for wanting him to be serpent-oriented, and
the scorpion is a arachnid. It's not a snake.
I guess that they were like, it's weird that he's actually called Scorpion, but he throws just spears? Maybe he should actually be covered in scorpions. No, that would be silly. Let's give him reptile powers. But there's already a reptile. Shh. Just let it happen.
Well, the other thing is, like, I'm pretty sure in Conquest, Scorpion has the teleport punch. Like, I don't think he ever gets to do the toasty.
No,
I'm fairly certain I remember
he does.
teleport punch.
He has the teleport punch.
Yeah.
I remember watching one episode on YouTube a little while ago, and like, yeah, he does that.
I think he might have even used the covered with Scorpion's leg takedown.
I'm pretty sure he does. Man, I missed that leg takedown. I'm
That's another
sorry.
move that didn't come back in 11.
I'm sorry, man. I'm a fan. I like it.
It feels like it should be a normal, but I'm not saying I would take it out of his move set.
Just make it a sweep. My God.
Yeah, right?
Anyway,
So the premise of this episode is that Shao Kahn is going to Scorpion, and he's going to the Lin Kuei, and he's like, "Look, I've hired you both to kill Kung Lao, and you both failed. But what if you team up?"
yeah, that's gonna end well.
And both sides, Scorpion's over here being like, "I don't need these assholes," and Sub-Zero's over here being like, "I don't need this asshole," and he's like, "Shut the fuck up. I'm in charge." And I say, if you can't get the job done alone, you're gonna do it together. And so they're like, fine, you're the boss, Shao Kahn.
Okay, Dad.
So they go off, and the next time they're on screen together, Sub-Zero has just kind of walked into the woods where Scorpion is training, and they just get into an argument and start fighting each other.
Of course.
Like, there's no point in the episode where they actually even attempt to fight Kung Lao together. They just go straight to fighting each other. They only pretended long enough to leave the room, and the moment Shao Kahn wasn't looking, they're at each other's throats.
Oh, beautiful.
And so at this point in the series, Scorpion is starting to put a clan together, and they never call it the Shirai Ryu, but probably what it's supposed to be. And he has this, like, blonde chick sidekick because Conquest had to have, like,
scantily clad
ladies
everywhere.
Yeah, just we're on in the middle of the night on TNT. Let's load it up with skanks. Let's try to make it as close to softcore porn as we can.
Wasn't very far off, say that.
So this chick is supposed to be Scorpion, and I'm calling him Scorpion, but really he is the ancient Takeda, the former of the guy who created the Shirai Ryu. They just call him Scorpion on the show.
I see it as being a name that's just passed down, sure.
This blonde chick, who is in China for some reason, is his girlfriend. And so I tell you that to set up something that comes at the end of the episode, but the point is, after Scorpion and Sub-Zero fight each other, it doesn't really resolve anything, and they both go their separate ways pissed off, and they're like, "I'll get you. No, I'll get you first." And so Scorpion starts, like, looking into ways he can fuck with Sub-Zero. And meanwhile, Kung Lao and his friends are trying to find out more about Sub-Zero because they think they can turn him to their side. They know that he's been sent after them again. And so both Scorpion and Kung Lao find the family Sub-Zero was stolen from as a child. And they find that he still has a sister. So by the end of the episode, Scorpion's girlfriend kills the sister, so Sub-Zero kills the girlfriend. And then Sub-Zero runs away from the Lin Kuei and kills one of the two Grandmasters on his way out. And the very last scene of the episode is them teasing that they're going to send Smoke after Sub-Zero. And
yes.
Their Smoke is CGI of a man-shaped cloud with glowing red eyes. They don't actually have an actor yet.
It looked like a large professional wrestler at the time to me, because I didn't have, like, UPN proper. I had, like, really, really shitty rapid ear reception. And he looked fucking gigantic.
I mean, they probably would have cast a wrestler. They cast wrestlers for several. bit roles on that show because they were sharing the same channel with WCW.
Very true. Very true.
There was that episode where the guy who is not Johnny Cage fights a wrestler who literally does like an elbow drop on him.
I did not know that Not Johnny was also a wrestler. Hilarious. So that's it for Conquest, I guess?
Yeah, that's pretty much it for Sub-Zero and Conquest, because that was another show that only lasted one season.
I sense a theme.
Mm.
I really wonder how an MK show would do today in this day and age.
That depends on, like, what channel it's on and stuff like that. Like, would it be, like, a CW teen drama type show, like their DC shows? Would they try to put it on HBO, like the Watchmen show?
I would watch an HBO Mortal Kombat. They could probably do it justice.
I mean, I would too. It's just, I don't think WB would give it that many resources. I don't think they'd have the faith in it.
Fucking WB.
But, I mean, I'd like to see them try again. I think a show has a lot better odds of not sucking than a movie does.
This is true. But this is the company that doesn't have much faith in, let's say, a compendium of the original 3 games to do all that well.
Well, the thing about a show is that with the movie, you're trying to squeeze as much material as you can into 2 hours, and with a show, you get to be serialized and take your time. And I feel like that encourages people to be less revisionist with the material, to have less artistic license in how they adapt it. Like, there's probably not going to be a Cole Turner in a TV show version. There's probably going to be a tournament on an island in a TV show version, whereas a movie's going to be like, they've seen that one already, let's do it different this time.
Anyway, enough about what could be, what we hope for.
So, after Conquest, I mean, adaptational material
period of time
has been difficult to come by for the past couple decades.
Is it Legacy time?
Oh, we might be straight to Legacy.
Hooray.
Nothing in between?
Not that I really remember, man.
Fuck. I guess it's Legacy.
No shows.
Oh, Conquest did have a Noob Saibot episode, but obviously he had nothing to do with
oh yeah,
Zero.
there was that. He was covered in oil. He was a sex demon in a gimp suit covered in oil.
And he worked for Shao Kahn instead of Shinnok, yes.
Did he work for Shao Kahn?
So the origin he has in that episode of the show is that he's a former soldier of Shao Kahn's who was banished for some undescribed failure a long time ago. And now he lives in a fucking oil pit on Earthrealm. And these two women who are actually Zaterans disguised as humans.
Yes.
These weird bisexual couple who try to seduce every character they meet on the show.
They spend much of their time touching each other.
Yes, touching each other and then trying to touch dudes around them. Softcore porn.
They even imply they want to have a 3-way with Noob once they actually set him
so
free.
they hire Noob to not even kill Great Kung Lao, I think. I think they wanted to kill his friend Zero.
Strange fucking episode. I was like, why is he covered in oil? Why?
Well,
everything about the show is just vaguely sexual and a little bit dirty.
Because that's the thing, like, Zero figures out that it's oil and beats him by setting him on fire.
Yeah, sure, why not, I guess.
It's literal oil. It's not just goo that is shiny, it's actual oil.
It's not shadow stuff, it's just oil. Oh, Jesus. No, I think we're right to Legacy after that. The series was in its grave for quite some time after 4.
Mm-hmm. It's just kind of sad that there was literally no other, like, not even a comic book.
You know, it's funny that these days people say the 3D era, and they're talking about MK4 to MK Deadly Alliance through Armageddon, but like, there was that period, man. We all thought that MK was dead for like 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, between 4 and Deadly Alliance, there was a gap. People forget.
This is why I don't call it the 3D era. The 3D era to me is the 3D games. 4 is 4 is much closer to the original trilogy than anything else. It's the extra. So Mortal Kombat Legacy. We flash forward a little while, quite some time, years in fact, until the modern era. The renewed interest in Mortal Kombat. And what do we have to show for it, outside of the MKX comic, but 2 miniseries? There was potential there. There are some things that I really enjoyed. Sub-Zero and Scorpion were probably some of the highlights. Although to this day, I'm not particularly sure about Sub-Zero's outfit.
Well, Season 1 had a good outfit.
Yes, Part
Color
2,
scheme was a
though,
little weird. Like, it was very heavy on the color white instead of black.
yeah. I think, though, that Part 2's was just so bad, it's overshadowing what Part 1 looked like in the memory.
Yeah, Part 2... I mean, I joke, but I think they literally did go to a Walmart and just buy paintball gear.
He looked like a really bad knockoff G.I. Joe.
And there are narrative problems with the whole outfit thing. But to explain, you have to start at the beginning. Which is... So first of all, Legacy was greenlit after Kevin Tankerowen, who before this had only directed some like movies about dance-offs and stuff like that, some like musical films.
Weird choice.
Yeah, he wanted to prove that he could do genre fiction, that he could be the director you go to for that you could hire him for these jobs, because I guess he was interviewing for these jobs and not getting them. So he made this basically a demo reel that he never intended to go public and accidentally did, in which he reimagined Mortal Kombat as a sort of gritty, low-budget horror piece. And
there's some merit to that, because, you know, Mortal Kombat's roots are in Shaw Brothers' low-budget action flicks.
Yeah, but, like... the Shaw Brothers is action, not horror. Yeah. I think it was the tone was weird and off. And so, for example, his version of Mortal Kombat started with a police interrogation room where Sonya and Jax were cops rather than military. And they were talking to a captured criminal who they were offering, hey, go to this underground fight club for us and time off your sentence or whatever. And then at the end you find out that this guy is supposed to be Scorpion. And the only real hint you get to that is he has the white eyes. And also, I think the dress shirt he was wearing was yellow.
Subtle, I guess.
But, yeah, so Shang Tsung was a mob boss. Which, by the way, what's the point of Kano then? Johnny Cage was introduced as in like they were like narrating a flashback about how he was an out of work actor who was doing undercover stuff for them, and he got found out, so the mob sent a hitman after him, and this hitman was Baraka, except this version of Baraka was a plastic surgeon named Dr. Alan Zane, who was played by a famous capoeirista and martial arts movie actor Lateef Crowder.
Can we just not? I don't wanna. Does any of this bit involve Sub-Zero? I don't remember Sub-Zero being in that
No,
shitty pilot.
Sub-Zero's only part in it is that they're talking about I don't think they call him Scorpion, they just call him Hanzo Hazashi, but they're talking about how he wants revenge for somebody killing his family, and there's a brief flash of like some concept art he had stolen from the internet of Sub-Zero as kind of like half human, half cyborg with like this weird mechanical mask.
Sure, why not?
Um,
Ugh.
and like Reptile, instead of being from Outworld, was just a guy who had survived being born with Harlequin ichthyosis.
You're saying these things like they're related to Sub-Zero. Let's
No, they're.
no.
I'm setting the context. So
It's bad though.
So this rebirth pitch apparently got Tanker Owen looked at by Warner Brothers for making an actual MK thing. They're like, oh, this guy, he likes the thing, and like his YouTube video got 2 million hits, so I guess people might want to see him do the thing.
Which is the really important part to take away from all of this.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It proved that there was interest in MK. So
It proved
job
there was
done.
interest in MK. Now here's the thing. Obviously, they spoke to Tanker Owen and had doubts that he was the guy, because instead of giving him the movie right away, they gave him a very low budget web series to put on the Machinima channel first. And I'm talking really, really low budget.
To season 1's credit, it does a fair bit with what it's got.
Now, here's another thing about Tanker Owen is he has friends in the industry, so he was able to get people to do both Rebirth and Legacy who are famous. For example, his Sonya is Jerry Ryan, 7 of 9 from Star Trek Voyager.
I thought that was a good choice.
His Jax is Michael Jai White.
Both good choices.
Yeah, those are both good choices. Although I don't know if Jerry Ryan, she might be a little too old to actually do martial arts. We never really got a fight scene from her where we could see if she was capable of it.
Maybe they could give her a cat turret.
It's the question remains up in the air. But let's see. His Johnny Cage for the trailer and for season 1 was Matt Mullins, who was a stuntman / he played one of the Kamen Riders, I believe.
Wouldn't know.
Which is why there are several Power Rangers jokes in the Johnny Cage episode of season 1.
Oh, okay.
Like, they basically... So, Tanker Owen's vision of Johnny is that he's basically Jason David Frank.
Slowly shaking my head.
Yeah, as opposed to the more obvious intention of the source material, where he's actually a big star, like, at the time, Jean-Claude Van Damme.
All that B-movie crap. Well, you gotta wonder if it's like the influence of Jean-Claude Van Damme's career waning as time has passed.
Yeah, well, I think even Van Damme himself has, like, made, like, his comeback roles have all sort of been parodying the death of his career, haven't they?
Just a little bit.
Yeah. But, I mean, like, there is this ongoing thing that didn't used to be there nowadays of trying to make Johnny look like a failed actor as opposed to a guy who has won awards.
Unacceptable. Don't like it.
No, I think it works better when, like, he has a reason to have an ego. Like, that's the character. He's got a big ego, and he realizes that his star is starting to fall, and he's trying to save it. But if your star never rose in the first place...
But Sub-Zero.
Yeah, so Sub-Zero, in Legacy Season 1, we are introduced to this premise that the Lin Kuei and the Shirai Ryu's feud is happening in ancient feudal Japan. as opposed to the present day.
Which was an element I really enjoyed, actually.
It was it gave it an interesting flavor, but it kind of doesn't make sense, and I'll get to why.
I mean, it's in terms of like the time, like the placement of those specific characters in that particular time. I'm not sure why they decided to put them there. They could have
I
just
know why
shown.
they did it. Tankerowan was trying to go for a sort of realism thing. Like,
It's always a
apparently
mistake.
he didn't see ninjas as something that could exist in the present day, even though at the time Rebirth and Legacy were coming out, the movie Ninja Assassin was in theaters, and then G.I. Joe 2 was in theaters. And both of those did okay-ish at the box office. Like, they weren't big hits, they weren't flops, but people will go see a movie about ninjas set in the year 2000 whatever, okay? It's not something that we really believe has been left behind in the past and can never be returned to. You know, assassins, like mob hitmen, are still a thing. Why can't we just have mob hitmen who are from Japan and wear masks?
Truth.
Especially in a world where the fucking supernatural exists.
But yeah, like, they could have done all of this. They could have had the whole feudal Japan set up to show the beginning of an enmity between two different clans.
Yeah, but they specifically did it with Bihan as the leader of the Lin Kuei and Hanzo Hasashi as the leader of the Shirai Ryu. And they actually, like, they revisit these same backstory elements in Season 2, where they sort of go even deeper and show them as children and show their fathers feuding, and then we see Bihan and Hanzo settling the feud, like making peace between the two clans. And then there's like this incident where Tankerowan's version of Kuai Liang, who is kind of a young punk, gets into a fight with Hanzo on the road, like him and some other Lin Kuei guys, and they end up dead. So he made Kuai Liang an asshole and killed him before Bihan.
Yeah.
So
Big ol' what the fuck. Big ol' what the fuck.
But yeah, but then like the Scorpion episode at the end of Season 1 shows him with his son and wife, and basically, you know, you get to know them just enough to feel bad when they die. And basically the premise of the episode is he's waiting for the local shogun to visit his village, and he's not actually even a ninja, he's like a samurai general. But his outfit includes a mask and a spear. Rope dart. One thing I did like about the episodes is that they had him speaking authentic Japanese, and he even yells
he actually
Japanese,
screams, "Get over here!" Like, you know, for everything else that I don't agree with how Legacy handled it. Like, the feudal Japan setting was cool. The authenticity was nice.
Yeah.
I just, you know, I wish that they could have found some way to actually make this work better in a modern context.
Yeah, because what gets weird about it, well, first, the rest of the episode is that, so he hears that the Shogun has been attacked on the road, and he goes to save him, and he finds him frozen to death, and he fights Sub-Zero. And then he runs back to the village, because he realizes that this happened so he could be lured away while the village was attacked. And he gets back to the village, and he finds the village dead, and his wife and kid frozen to death. And then Sub-Zero comes up behind him and stabs him and freezes him. And then you find out that the whole time Sub-Zero was actually a shape-shifted Quan Chi. And Shang is there? Like, they're working together? Which is weird.
It just raises too many questions.
So then Quan Chi brings Scorpion back from the dead, and like he says, I'll give you the chance to avenge yourself on Sub-Zero if you'll fight for the Nether Realm in the Mortal Kombat tournament.
Yeah.
also raises questions, because what is NetherRealm's stake in this version of the tournament that is usually between Earth and Outworld? And
Probably best
also
we never
with
found
Shang
out.
standing right there. Like, if he had said, if you'll fight for Outworld in the tournament, that would make more sense.
Adaptations.
Right.
With that logic.
So so the weird thing about the feudal setting is that Bihan and Scorpion and also Kenshi are all from the ancient feudal era, and they're all brought to the present day by Raiden to fight in the tournament on the island. So it's like,
The implication being there's no one good enough in modern times.
well, I guess the premise is that in the show, Mortal Kombat is actually eternal champions. Like, these are the greatest fighters in history being collected to defend Earthrealm. And there's only one tournament as opposed to 10?
Abbreviations.
Yeah. So what bothers me about it is that you have all of this trouble went to place the ninja and samurai characters in ancient Japan as opposed to the present day. But then we have a Sector and Cyrax episode where we find out that Lin Kuei does exist in the present day and has hired Kano and the Black Dragon to make their men into cyborgs. My question is, once Sector and Cyrax are built, what are you going to use them for if the series continues, if not hunting Sub-Zero because you made Sub-Zero be from the ancient past?
Well, the fun thing about Sub-Zero is that he doesn't actually last long enough to be hunted down.
No, yeah, so Season 2 is ostensibly the tournament itself. Although Tenker Owen's idea of a tournament, just drop people on an island and have them fight in the wilderness, like Battle Royale. Just Hunger Games that shit.
Pretty much.
No structure, just run around until everybody but one is dead. And Sub-Zero happens to run into Scorpion in a... I guess it's a wheat field or something?
Yeah, looks like.
Yeah, and they fight, and Scorpion does the spine rip to Bihan at the end of that fight.
God! Like, why? What is...
Well, see, it's Mortal Kombat, so you want to have the spine rip, right? But also, Scorpion has to win the fight, because that's how it goes in the story, right?
I guess...
We couldn't have had the spine rip in the first season episode where Scorpion dies in the first place?
Could have had two for the price of one, but just had to freeze him.
Yeah. And the other thing, I mentioned how low the budget was. So in season 1, Sub-Zero has a perfectly fine Sub-Zero-y outfit. Like, the black parts are white instead, which is an odd choice, but...
Yeah, like, it wasn't perfect, but you could buy that this is, like, Arctic gear or something.
Yeah, it's still, like, it looks like a Sub-Zero costume. In fact, he's wearing the classic Deadly Alliance cryo mask. Like, they went to the trouble of modeling the mask.
And it looks alright.
But in season 2... when everybody is brought to the island, they are sort of teleported into modern clothing, which includes Sub-Zero wearing literally paintball gear bought at a Walmart.
It is terrible. It is just mind-bogglingly bad.
Visibly the cheapest outfit in the series.
Oh my god, I'm looking at so many images of it right now, and it's like the shit that Hydra wore for, like, one issue or something. God. Well, good news is, for all of you cheap cosplayers out there...
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know why you'd want to go to a con and walk up to someone and be like, so who are you supposed to be dressed as? I can't tell by looking. And you go, I'm the web series version of Sub-Zero.
Oh, try to Ninja. Get out of my house. The spine
So
rip
the other funny thing is
the
that
spine rip itself is actually kind of nice, though.
within like a year, Machinima took it down so they could sell it on DVD. Like, you can't watch it for free on YouTube anymore.
I'm proud to say, proud with a question mark, that I have the Blu-rays. I'm glad
Yes,
to...
like, the DVD it comes in is a box set with the original movie and Annihilation.
Yikes. I mean,
So,
yikes.
that's how much money it's worth, I guess. For the price
I don't know.
of a normal DVD, you can get this plus the 2 movies.
I think it's just really an extra incentive to just get people to buy a DVD at all, because I got the single release Blu-rays, both seasons.
I would imagine that the only people buying it are people who are buying the first movie and going, "Oh, hey, I also got the second movie and this weird shit on here."
Please be interested in our products.
Please get excited.
Who knows what the future holds?
But yeah, so that didn't get a 3rd season.
It was gonna, but
and
things turned out probably for the
when
best.
season 2 was coming out, Tankerowan was also like, and I'm also working on the movie, and I'm working on a season 3. And I'm pretty sure before the last episode of season 2 came out, there was talk about him not being on the movie anymore. And they were already talking about how instead of a season 3, we were supposed to get a different web series, although
Which was
using
gonna
some
be...
of the same actors.
It was going to be
That
largely a
would be-
tie into MKX.
Yeah, it was supposed to have like Devora in it and Takeda, and we saw
Salazar.
because Casper Van Dien had been hired to replace Matt Mullins as Johnny Cage in season 2. We saw there are actual set photos of Casper Van Dien dressed up for the MKX web series as Johnny, where he has the actual tattoo on his chest. And they got Force, I don't know why, Ray Park as Aaron Black. Because when I think cowboy, I think British Darth Maul guy.
Like such shit that it's a very good thing it never came to
Those
light.
costumes were equally as bad as Paintball Gear Sub-Zero.
Yeah. Possibly the last of that budget that they gave Tankerowan for the series.
Yeah, now there were definitely set photos. Like, I can share them with you. So this was filmed and then not released. Somebody looked at the footage and went, yeah, no, we can't put this out there. It's embarrassing.
Who knows what'll pop up 15 years from now?
I would love to see that. I would love to see that, and I'd love to see the Quan Chi deleted scenes from Annihilation. Because we know they exist. There's set photos.
There is some serious demand for, like, Blu-ray releases of MK1 and Annihilation that actually have a lot of deleted scenes.
I don't understand any movie that doesn't put out, like, the deleted scenes material. Like, there's an entire sequence from Ghostbusters 2 that was filmed that we still don't have on DVD, where Ray is possessed in the middle of the movie and crashes the Ecto-1 into a tree.
I need to see this shit, man.
They've never put it on the DVD, and I don't know why.
You know, it's very possible that some of this footage is lost. Happens all the time.
I guess maybe.
That'd be unfortunate. But I guess that's it.
Yeah, that's kind of all there's been for adaptational material. I mean, obviously we have a new movie coming.
Joe Taslim will be playing Sub-Zero, and I guess he's got the general kind of angry Chinese guy look. I guess you need to play Sub-Zero.
You can play Bihan. I am concerned that all of the bad guys in this movie,
they're all going to be cannon fodder, all of them.
Yeah, we've seen a draft from back when Tankerowan was still involved. But we've also seen evidence that the current draft has very little changed from the previous draft. Like, the cast list is still the same. Like, the draft we saw had, like, Reiko and Nitara and Cabal on Outworld's team. Apparently, those are all still in the movie. So it hasn't been rewritten that much, which is a big red flag because that draft was the drizzling shits.
Cabal's from Outworld, right? Right.
Yeah, that's apparently. Like, the list of bad guys in this movie is literally just someone looked at pictures of all the characters and picked all the ugly ones. All the ones who look like monsters.
Is Baraka in the movie?
Actually, Baraka's not in, but there is a point where there's a bar fight with a generic Tarkatan. Because they go to Outworld's marketplace, I guess it's supposed to be, to train for the tournament.
I guess the general idea is to give characters who have never had screen time more of it, or some of it. Because I mean, I'll give it this. I mean, I'd be interested in seeing Natara and Reiko and Cabal in live action for the first time, because none of those guys have ever really had much to work with. Like, apart from Reiko showing up on Conquest, that's basically it for those three. And Cabal, Cabal getting a shout out in Annihilation.
Was a general in that show,
and he looked all right. He looked pretty good.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind seeing him fight, though. So let's see what the future holds.
I feel like if you're going to use the name and appearance of a character and then not have them act anything like the character, then were they really in it at all? Does that count? It doesn't count to me.
Nah,
It's more like watching people dress up for a Thanksgiving Day parade.
How do you think I feel about every single Transformers movie, barring Bumblebee, that's come out so far? Since 2006. These are just names attached to pieces of scrap metal that look like bugs.
Well, now, to be fair, Optimus wasn't ripping off faces until the second one. He was still pretty... Freedom is the right of all sentient beings in the first.
You gotta read the TF Wiki article on that guy, man. Hello, Pretty. It's
a war criminal.
It's just full of face references. Hello, pretty bird. Give me your face. Give me your face. Jesus Christ.
I wonder if Michael Bay was really trying to, on purpose, say that both sides are psychopaths because they've been fighting the same war for billions of years.
Mission fucking accomplished. With a vengeance. Alright, so that's it for the night then, I guess.
I guess so. Yeah, we're all sub-zeroed out, finally.
I'm sorry it took us this long. It's been a long and winding path that's taken us the better part of...
we had a gap of 2 months there recording because I had a really bad cough, and it wouldn't go away. And I wish I had a better excuse, but I really, you can't record like that. It doesn't make for good audio.
Well, here we are. We're over the hump. Sub-Zero's 4 straight episodes are done with, finally, to our relief and yours as well, I'm sure. And next up, we're going to be delving into Crouching Tiger, Hidden Jackass. Or as we like to call him, Kung Lao. So, until then, hopefully very soon, take care, keep on enjoying MK11 if you still are, and catch you next time.
Later, nerds.